Right, you're welcome back to the show. Still good morning, Anambra, right here on ABS TV. The topic we'll be exploring this morning is raising the bar of youth employability. Of course, we know that we have about 141 universities in Nigeria, and not even talking about the polytechnics, the monotechnics, and colleges of education. And these people every year, produces thousands of graduates. And what this means is that in our shrunken economy, that the youth and the graduates, job seekers need to raise the bar of employability. And now today we have with us in the studio Dr. Nelson Omenora. He is a special advisor to the governor of Anambra State on youth empowerment. Good morning. Glad to have you.
Good morning. I'm glad to be here.
All right. We also have Comrade Onyedika Ewe, the State Youth Coordinator of Hanes and Dibu. Onyedika, how are you doing?
Very well, dear. Good morning, Nigeria. Good morning, Anambra. Glad to be here.
All right. Quickly, let's start with, defining what employability is. Now, if you ask me, I would say it's just the capacity, one's capacity of getting employment, staying employed, and also, having to look for another employment if needs be. But now, in the context of what we are discussing today, let's start with you, Dr. Nelson. Do you have any contrary opinion towards employability is all about?
Thank you very much. And like I said, I'm glad to be here. Good morning, Anambra. Good morning, Nigerians. This is a very critical topic, and a topic that should be, quite frankly, that should be at the forefront of every discussion, given where we are today as a country, and also given the rate at which the young people are quite unemployed. Yes, I agree with you. Employability, in my view, in addition to what you've just said in terms of being able to have a job and staying on job and being also able to get another job. For me, in addition to that, it will also have to speak to being able to be productive, because we would be scaling up and deconstructing that concept of employability by going extra mile in classifying things like entrepreneurship as being an employment, because employment should be looked at a broader context, where you also look at the capacity of the individual to also be able to develop a kind of business and be able to run that. That way you are also being productively engaged. So in addition to being able to get that white-collar job, the things we call employment, it goes beyond that to being able to develop the capacity to build a business and also be able to recruit a team that will drive that business. So it's, in my view, a broader way of saying that one has to be productive to be said to be employable. Thank you.
Okay. Do you also share that same opinion? Because now I remember like 3 months back when the federal government did something on and training some youth to get skills. Now the present vice president said that the reason for that skill acquisition is because some youths are unemployable, some graduates are not unemployable. And now some people will tell you, some organization will tell you that the reason why so and so person wasn't employed is because they can't even defend themselves. They can't even show that they actually went through the school and studied a particular course. So do you also believe that some youths are unemployable? And what are the reasons for that?
Okay, thank you very much. I believe that some youths are unemployable. It's just as simple as that. Being a graduate doesn't absolutely make one employable. There are some skills that one has to possess. There are some levels of productivity that one has to possess to be fit in the demands of the employment. To be highly productive, to not just for himself, to the society, to his community, to the economy at large. So that's just what brought to our today's topic, if I can remember. It's all about raising the bar of employability. Because there's a difference between being employed and being employable. That's something, because many companies now are going beyond looking for the normal qualification, what additional skill, what are the additional inputs can you, have to contribute to the growth of the company, to the growth of the economy, and the rest of it. So, like if the vice president said, yeah, I believe with that, and then the solution, I believe, to this is youth, adding to what they have, development of your potential, development of your skills, what you have today, improve on it. Always, show yourself, go on research, find something more than what you already have to make yourself employable. Thank you very much.
Let's go to the topic proper. Now, how can youth, raise this bar? You talk about being productive. You talk about being skillful and all that. Now, a graduate, somebody that spent like 4 years in the university and after 7, his fatherland, is expecting to have something to do, like get a job and start probably taking care of the parents and the siblings. Now, when you talk about acquiring a skill, does it mean that after spending 4 years in school, he comes out again and look for one skill or the other to acquire so that he will become employable?
Let me say this. The whole, maybe 90% of being employable depends on the youth, on the individual. The other 10% might be circumstances. And that is why I so much believe that there's no miracle anywhere in the world. As a matter of fact, what I call miracle is when you are prepared and you're able to meet opportunities. Preparedness meets opportunity. That is what I call miracle. Because life largely is, for me, 99% hard work and 1% luck. Of course, with God and Christ in full details. That said, let me quickly say that it's important that as a youth, and I say this to every youth gathering or every youth meeting, you have to ask yourself, what am I living for? It's until you begin to critically analyze and able to speak to this particular issue, that is when you begin to actually have the hunger to succeed. You have to first of all ask yourself, what do you live for? What do you really want to achieve? What have you come into this world to do? When people say they're unemployed, for instance, I ask them, so when you wake up a day, you allow that day to pass without achieving anything. For me, that shouldn't be, because for every time lost, you can't get that back. And talking about skills, of course, there are various classes of skills. You have the hard one and you have the soft one. That is what my friend just referred to, not just being a graduate or not just having the certificate. As a matter of fact, life and the world has moved from certificate-based system to certificate. What can you actually offer? What are you bringing to the table? What are you going to do differently? You can't do the same thing, the same way, the same pattern, and expecting miracle to happen, expecting different results. That won't happen. You have to break even. You have to disrupt the normal, and create a new normal. So for you to talk about skill, you have to understand what skill do I require in this 21st century to be able to remain competitive. If you talk about soft skills, for instance, where you have to talk about creativity, you have to be creative. You have to be able to think beyond the normal, because abnormal situation requires abnormal approach to getting things right and done. So you don't remain where you are. Remain where they say 1 + 1 is 2, when people are thinking about how they can use the initiative to change the world. So the young people out there, my message is simple. You have to begin to ask yourself, what are you actually in this life to accomplish? And are you comfortable where you are? If you are comfortable where you are, then that's okay. But if you feel that there's need for you to do more, then you should, as a matter of fact, begin to, think through the different approaches you can. That could also include seeking for counseling, sessions, and most importantly, having a role model and a mentor, somebody you look up to, somebody whose life inspires you. It's very important. These are the things you have to begin to, and of course, read. Readers are leaders, because the moment you stop reading, you start dying. As of today, I'm still running online classes and via YouTube. The ones I don't even need to pay for, except I'm able to recharge my subscribe my data. These are the things you need to keep doing to be able to be ahead of your peers. And I said this because I was speaking with a lawyer friend, and he said to me that he just concluded his master's in University of Sheffield, MSc in law. And I was saying to him, oh, so now what next? He said he's still going to run another short program, and then PhD. And I said to him, but you just got your MSc, what do you call it, LLM. And he said that almost every lawyer in Nigeria and even elsewhere has that as it's almost like now in the new normal. Lawyers now, after BL, they go up to getting LLM. And so he wants to have a short program, a short certificate that would distinguish him among his peers. So these are the things, and not just getting a certificate, but a specialized area that he would have a specialized skills that he can use to compete favorable with some of his colleagues. So today is about not just getting the skills, but identify the right skills. It's not about the bricks and mortar. It's about the going extra mile to standing out and carving an itch for yourself where you will become an expert. You don't need to know everything. Just find a small space and be doing that thing consistently. Before you know it, your work will announce itself to the world. And for that particular area, you'll be most thoughtful. Thank you.
Well, I think one of the problems we have is finding out the right skills, just like you mentioned, because I've seen a lot of youths that are so confused. You see them, they've learned this one, they've learned this one. They are so confused that they don't even know the ones that they would delve in. Now, we also still have a situation, because you mentioned a friend that is educated and had his master's at Sheffield University and is about to do another one. What about those ones that are not privileged to be educated? Some of these people are rural dwellers. Now, how do these people acquire that skills? I know we've talked about, you've talked about the soft skills, and we still have the other ones. Now, how do we convince them that they need to be skillful? And again, looking at the kind of youth that we have today who think that Egumbute is all that matters now. So how do we now change the mindset of this set of people to see how we can, when we are talking about employability, how they can be skillful and help themselves, and also can be employers of laborers too?
Okay, thank you very much. As the leader of the Igbo youth in Anambra State, I think we have this local content, value. We know all the artisans, at the nooks and crannies of the states and environments we are. There are, like Doctor has said, those are, the elite youth, and then those other ones that are really not quite educated. They're educated in the sense that they can write, they can read, reasonably, but they are not, they don't have this formal education at the higher level, and it's becoming kind of an impediment towards their, choice of career. You placed it well, confusion everywhere. Doc made mention of mentorship. There are people that they know in that their environment that they grew up from nowhere and they became something at the end of the day. It's good you engage them, towards, bros, I want you to mentor me. Be humble. Don't go into this ego thing. Welding is a very good job. Vulcanizing is a very good job. All this plastering and mechanical works, they're very good work. So think of yourself. What can I do? Phone, there are people that fix phones in the villages. You go, you learn. It's a skill. And you use that to develop yourself, think about the market, the people within your community, the people within your locality. They can be your good market if you can develop yourself very well in that area, and then you make your your marketplace, or maybe your shop, be very attractive to them, be very sincere to the people that you are serving. And you see people flowing in, promoting you, and then you start employing people. People will be coming to your shop to learn that same skill. From there, you started being not just a job creator, even a wealth creator. So we are out. My advice here is our rural dwellers. Let's think how to develop ourselves. The good thing that Mr. Governor Professor Chukuma Soludo has done to Anambra youth of today is to make this a projection of one youth, two skills. We've never seen that before, and the Ministry of Youth is trying to roll it up in the trainings. So I implore every youth to cash into this, make use of this opportunity that has been provided by His Excellency, and then move into your rural area to start developing it. God help us. There must be steady supply of electricity, because that's one kind of impediment towards local creativity. We see that we'll be fit into the society, and then Anambra and Nigeria at large will be a better place for all of us. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Dr. Nelson, now he made mention of the One Youth, Two Skills in program, and also we saw the one that happened in Anocha recently. So this series of initiatives, programs, policies from the present-day administration of Anambra State, and you being the special advisor to the governor on youth empowerment, how can this actually, because we are talking about raising bar for employability, so how can all these programs raise the bar for employability, and how do we, involve the youth also, the youth in both the rural setting, the urban setting, in fact, all the youths in Anambra State?
Yeah, thank you. Just three quick one. One is that, last Saturday, I was here at the radio station to talk about One Youth, Two Skills program of Mr. Governor, and why he's so passionate about every youth in Anambra, provided you're able to avail yourself the opportunity that the government equips you with at least minimum of 2 skills. I was here 2 weeks ago to talk about that, and it was a 1-hour program, and we dealt with that. I'm going to speak to that shortly. The second angle to that, if you recall in my definition of employability, I also mentioned about, in addition to being able to get a job and stay on job, I also talked about a productive one. And that's essential because if you're not productive, we keep being a society or an economy that where the simple economic activities of production and the consumption are taking place simultaneously. But when you have an economy that is consumption-based, that economy is quite inactive. It's not, you can't say that is an active economy. The governor, being an economist, recognizes this in his manifesto. He captured that very well when he was talking about equipping the youths with competitive skills. He talked about the digital tribe, talked about creating 1,000 youth millionaire, talked about 130,000 youths annual jobs and what have you. So this is all in his efforts to make sure that Anambra youth are productive, moving largely away from being consumptive economy to being a productive economy, where a welder in Obaru will be able to produce some doors, and somebody in Oka will go there and buy, or even people within that locality can always patronize those who are building houses. I can always provide such that somebody who is in Oko can be able to install solar system and CCTV, business solution software, and what have you. These are kind of 20 of them, largely, that we've rolled out for the youth to come in. So this is because, like I said, we want to make Anambra very productive economy, where not only are we producing the one we will use, but we will also produce the one that we can export to other states and even beyond the country. That said, let me also say that this One Youth, Two Skills program of Mr. Governor remains the masterstroke. Never have we had in Anambra where over 5,000 youths are being trained across the states. If there's anything about this program, it is community-based. This is first of its kind. Usually, before what we used to have in the past is people coming from the various villages to Oka or to Mbako. The training center at Mbako. You camp them there for weeks, and then you say you've done training. That's not training. The governor, as a matter of fact, training, because even the ones we are doing is more like an accelerated intensive training. Normally, training is supposed to be run from 7 months up to 12 months. For you to have full knowledge and the full grasp of what you are being taught. We believe that a half-trained youth is very dangerous, and that is why we are taking our time to plan our programs in such a way that not only is not inclusive and sustainable, but it is geared towards quality and wealth creation. That we are doing in Anambra. We have the big agenda, the roadmap, and we are committed, very passionate to deliver that. That said, let me finally say that skills, I classify hard and soft skills. Let me quickly say that those two must marry themselves together to be able to make you a complete human being. I say this because you might be very good in welding, very good with furniture making, very good with bricklaying and all that. But if you don't apply the soft skills, which has to speak with more like the ones people do not see, being honest, for instance, being innovative and creative, for instance, then you make a mess of you, because even if you are very good with photography and welding, and you didn't apply honesty, for instance, accountability, transparency to that, people won't be able to patronize you. If 1, 2, 3% patronize you, and then they find out that you are being dishonest, they won't come back to you again. So, and being, if you like, more like closely making sure that the things you produce meet the quality and the standard that is required is also very key. So whenever you are learning skill is good, but also applied ethics, make sure there is an ethical angle to that particular skills you've acquired, and that's part of all we are preaching, to make sure that youth is trained not just in character and learning like the universities, but also making sure that the output, what you give out there to the society, is one that would ensure that we meet the standard and the quality as that particular skill or trade requires. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Onyedika, let's talk about the employability skills that we need to acquire. Yeah, we've talked about skill acquisitions, but there are so many things that we also need. I mean, there are so many of them, step-by-step procedures that when you want to raise that bar, you need to apply. I come up with one that you need to, redefine yourself. Be reasonable, and then know what you actually want for yourself. So what are other skills? Because I know a lot of you are watching us this morning, and they want to learn a lot from this discussion, because it's all about the youth and how, and I know a lot of them are still unemployed, so they want to know how they can go about this.
Yeah, when the Honorable Special Advisor was talking about, giving this soft skill, if you listen very well, he's talking about character here, the content of character, your capacity, competence, our ability to be productive, sincerity of purpose, all those things, they involve you as, one who wants to learn skill. So, if you want to fit into the competitive market that, every world is facing today, it's not all about you. The market is very open to everyone, even those in the village. They can use their phone to make a place order of what they have at their beck and call from another person from another state or another environment. So you have to prepare yourself with this character of being sincere, character of being purposeful. If someone asks you to, like you are a welder, someone asks you to make, what do you call it, this overhead tank in his village, you say it's going to take you 7 days to deliver the job. At the end of the day, the man couldn't see you after 2 weeks, after 3 weeks. It's very disturbing. So that character should be skilled from our, skill if we really want to excel. A character of competence, character, being, if you say you are producing this in, there should be a standard of what people know you for. There should be quality in what you are doing, not, going to, if you are expected to get a gauge of maybe 10 millimeters, you will reduce it because you want to make some, additional profit to yourself. You reduce it to maybe 7. That rate that you have, taken away from your customer is really going to affect your customer. And remember, there is this thing we call referral. When somebody starts referring, people, you are not there when you are being discussed, when your skill is being discussed. You might produce something for someone and somebody comes in, wow, who did this for you? He will, say, this guy is in my village and he's doing very well. So think of that kind of character of people referring you to others with good name, with good, representation. Not saying that idiot that did this, that he boasted of doing something good and he couldn't do something good. So you must have this character of service delivery. Okay, let's just face it, you must have this character of, in fact, making yourself, not, because you are a welder or because you are a vulcanizer or because you are a carpenter, you make yourself look dirty, make yourself look attractive to the people, that are coming to patronize you. Make yourself look, clean up while you are doing your job. No job is dirty. It's the people that are doing this job that are dirty. Dirty yourself and then you dirty your working environment, it becomes a dirty job. Clean yourself and make yourself very clean and you see people will be attracted to you. This barbing salon, make it to be very, very attractive. You go to, there are places that you will go, even in the village, you see so many attractive things there. So, present yourself in a way that, you will be the market, people will be the center of attraction. So I think there are so many other things that we need to really understand, but I think everything is boiling down to the character of the people or the person that, is getting themselves into this scale. You have to develop a good character of, trustworthiness, character that people can easily refer you with positivities, not with negativities. Thank you very much.
All right, Dr. Nelson, truth be told, we have a lot of youth that have excelled and are still excelling in their different endeavors. And then when we talk about one carving a niche for him or herself in the society, especially as a youth, yes, it's not an easy task. Now, you are here today. I know it hasn't been easy all through. And I know that someone listening to us or watching us this morning will want to know, what are the most challenging part of you getting to where you are today as a youth? And how were you able to surmount those challenges?
Yeah, because I think, thank you so much. I think the most challenging part when working and still working, I'm still work in progress, is the fear of failing. I have this fear and, there's this passion in me, but there's this angle, this challenge with confronting this passion, which is the fear of failing. And for me, the only way I go about it is intensifying my passion and my commitment towards some social change, the things I believe in, the things I'm absolutely convinced in. And because of that fear that confronting me, I put extra effort to, and I tell people I've never gotten anything on a platter of gold. I work hard and I pray also very hard, believing God that He will crown whatever modest effort we put to success. So that's why I say that 99% is hard work, the other 1% is luck. God does not serve breakfast on the bed. You have to wake up, go out there and work, and then pray to God to bless that effort. And that's why I also said that opportunity what people call miracle is when you are prepared and you meet opportunity. That's it. So you have to prepare, even if you think you don't have a job and you have opportunity of developing yourselves, using your smartphone in a productive manner. You don't go using it only to do cyber e-bullying or, e-talks for politicians and for on Facebook, people are trying to molest, intimidate Mr. Governor, an adult who shared his view over a partner, who said things the way they are over his comments, saying things the way they are. People are busy, doing cyberbullying, thinking that to bring solution to the issue at hand. No. Talk about developing yourself. There are short online free courses out there, or even YouTube. I know a lot of persons have been able to learn one or two things using YouTube, learning from others, because there are also persons who are able to do some certain stuff and posting them free of charge on YouTube for people and for young people to, if you like, to view and to learn from. Utilize these opportunities, confront your fears, put extra hard work, pray to God, and I can tell you that success is just around the corner. So just be prepared and wait for the right opportunity to come. And that right opportunity will come in its fullness of time, and when it comes, that will be the greatest door opening and, of course, a life-changing moment for you. Thank you.
All right, we'll still continue with our discussion right here in the studio. But let's hear what people out there have to say, because we actually interviewed some people concerning the topic of discussion, that is the raising of a bar of employability in our nation. Let's hear them.
Government still have a lot to do, even though the parents have tried their best to make sure that these children become something good. Well, we have so many agencies in Nigeria who are for empowerment of the youth. We employ government to, as possible, to empower those agencies and encourage them so that they will be able to imbibe most of these skills that the children need. Because it's not a matter of I've read a particular course. At the end of the day, it might not take you to anywhere. So skill acquisition is very, very important for nation building. If you look at most of the Asian countries and some of the African developed countries, I mean most of these developed nations, most of them use, most of them are private-driven economy. Most of them are skilled that they acquire, not the one they are even acquired from our institutions that made them what they have today. So government should do more. In terms of this NYSC that most of these students normally go, in my own opinion, I don't really support it. Because that period that they kept the children doing something that is not really, most of them read engineering, and they put them in secondary school to teach. At least they should try as much as possible. They put them in a field where they have already studied. If you are a mechanical engineer, already be in a field where they will put you, not when you read mechanical engineering, they put you into secondary school. To me, it's just a waste of time.
We can empower our youth by creating skill acquisition programs for them. Some of our youths are talented. We don't even know. So by bringing them together and asking them questions, knowing what they have in them, and then see where they can fit, and then maybe create opportunities for them, take them to schools. Some of them were able to finish their schooling because of finance and all that. Then we can help them by putting those ones in schools, and then when they get to certain levels, we can, feed them into one place or another for them to work.
There are many ways to empower the youth. If you check around, so much truth with so many skills. But like the government are not interested in our youth because they feel like they're boys from the street, so they don't care about them. But if you go into the street, you see many young talents, craftsmen, artists, and so on and so forth, with 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 different talent and different skills go to help the nation, to help our country, Nigeria. But the government are not interested. So I would suggest for government to look into our youth, our children, go to the streets, pick them up and try to empower them and train them.
Welcome back to the show. We've heard what the people out there have to say about raising the bar, and almost everyone, almost all of them, they are saying that it's a government responsibility to empower the youth. Now, what role? I know that the government of Anambra State have been trying their best, especially you have explained the One Youth, Two Skills initiative by the present administration and many more initiatives. But then, can government do it all alone?
Absolutely. You see, I'm quick to respond to this. Absolutely not true. It is not the you know, when I started making my opening remarks, I said that you know, 90. It's supposed to be 99%, but I said it. 90% of building yourselves largely lies within you. The other 10% becomes external. And that is a fact. If I tell you how much of my resources, personal resources that I invested in myself in terms of going for conferences, going for programs, going for, taking short courses, you won't believe that. I didn't wait for government to roll out a program for me to, a free program for me to launch in, for me to participate in. No. So if you want to develop yourself personally and professionally, you have to do that. You have to lead from the front. And then if there are government opportunities along the way, then you can tap into. But largely, it is your responsibility as a human being. What essential duty of the government all over the world is to protect lives and properties. And when governments succeed in providing that lives or protecting their lives and properties, businesses can thrive. That is why people usually say, oh, government should just give us light and then we can do businesses. All over the world, the things that have actually grown the economy is SMEs. That is the ones at the different villages, what we call villages, and those small businesses are the ones that have cumulatively, have come together to grow that massive economy that we envy. So, and who are the key players are those various SMEs? They are the youths, the young people. It's important we know this, that you don't wait for government to roll out One Youth, Two Skills program before you get yourself equipped with skills. Before now, there are so many young persons that have been able to go on their own to learn skills. They didn't wait for government. The millionaires who have likes of Ibeto, those that went to Boya, they didn't wait for government to send them to to become an apprentice before they succeed today. So it's important we know that our destiny is not in the hands of the government.
But then
our
again,
destiny is in our own hands.
There's something that you mentioned, that the government, the sole aim of the government is to protect life and property.
And properties and create an enabling environment for business to thrive.
But what about employment? Isn't it the real
No.
Partly, not solely.
In economies like US, we even envy, and even in Lagos here, the government can only recruit very few, very tiny. Governments all over the world, they can only recruit very tiny, maybe except UK, for instance, that because of NHS, their healthcare largely is public institution, like NHS does the recruitment for most of that. But they still have pockets of private sector. I'm talking about healthcare now, only healthcare, that also do the recruitment. But in US, larger hospitals there are larger private sectors. In UK, well, public institutions. But then the point I'm making in absolute, more like in general terms, is government can only recruit but very few tiny portion. If you are waiting for government to recruit, and government don't do recruitment every day. You know, it takes time. It's a systematic thing. We've just concluded recruitment of 5,000 teachers, 3,000, 5,000 teachers. The next time this will happen might be next 3 years, because government will have to check their budget, have to do some basic, if you like, due diligence before going out to the public to advertise for. So you don't wait for government. That's the point I'm trying to make. And I've also said that employability does not limit you to, it's not limited to the basic white-collar jobs, office work, and what have you. It's also include entrepreneurship, agri-business, and stuff like that. Your capacity to creatively, that's why I talk about creativity as being part of soft skills. Creatively being able to identify the gaps, the needs of the people, and then coming in there to feel, to fit into that. That is why today we are training so many persons on CCTV and the solar system, because increasingly our country is going into the different power holding companies are not doing, not performing. So more homes are in darkness. So what becomes the gap? The gap is that more homes are in darkness. There's need to, and then the cost of the diesel is high.
Very high.
So what becomes the alternative? How can you now provide solution to these particular issues? And the thing is, you go and learn solar. For instance, know that many people are resorting to solar now. Where I stay, almost every household has a solar. Most businesses, offices are now going solar because it's very cost effective. It's it provides you electricity on demand, and it makes you make sure that you don't have to quarrel with overestimated bill for those that don't have prepaid meter. So you have to identify what problem am I trying to, this skill, what problem will it solve for me and solve for the people. Once you establish that gap, that is where you make the money, because people will come after you and after your skill. So this is some angle of employability we have to bear in mind. It doesn't really or largely depend on what government can do for me, but what you can also do for yourself is very important.
For the government too. Okay, you want to add something to that?
Why it seems people always talk about government? It's not necessarily that people cannot or don't have anything to offer their society. It's because there is this general belief, and it's not just for Nigeria alone, that the essence of government is providing for the people what the people cannot provide for themselves. You don't compare Nigeria with Western world, where we know that from childbirth, there are some things that the government provide for the parents, till a particular, age. Even in the northern Nigeria here, I have a sister-in-law who is not only Anambra, that, every child that she's been put into bed through operation has been free of charge. You don't have such here. You don't even register for anything there just because you are there. You have been covered. It's not happening in this our society. This is happening there. They provide for you even what you eat. That is it. So when you grow, you see that the society has led, and there's a kind of foundation for you that you stand on it to grow. But here, you start from the scratch. You start even looking for how to even dig the soil to, start build. It's a very hard thing here. You understand? Basically, no road infrastructure, no electricity, no water supply. It's not an encouraging thing. So the government has to, take ownership of, full responsibility of, of governance. Let's face it, that is just reality. There is something that we know we call this YES program. Doc has it in Youth Necessarily Support Solution, but we have it at this Youth Employment and Strategic, Skill, Youth Employment and Skill Strategy Program. It's a program that government releases funds to organizations to identify their primary area of skill or areas of skills within those organizations, especially to the youth, to develop it on themselves, and then you grow it. it's a competitive thing that every organization is being funded towards, developing this and, training your members, and then let them fit into the society. Give this in 1 year, 2 years, and then you see productivity. But basically, you should be able to provide those basic amenities. If you don't provide road, just like the governor of Anambra said, it is massively doing on road infrastructure now, especially at the rural areas. It enables people convey their local produce. See, agriculture is a lucrative business that people don't know. But how did government support agriculture? Government has to support agriculture through providing road network, providing agricultural assistance like this mechanized type of agriculture that you can just lease. You release it for them to do their farming so that they can farm a very big hectares of land, and then you see the productivity. Support them with seedlings, support them with insecticide and pesticide. From there, you see them start producing good agri-produce. And that thing is road infrastructure, so that they will be able to, at least after producing all this, convey it to the popular areas of demand, and they start seeing that the chain is flowing. Not leaving it for the people. You should think of where you do something. Take a man. It's very disturbing. Remember, these youth have been able to pay for his school fees. There's not been any kind of assistance whatsoever from the government, and the school fees is increasingly increasing. Frustration from the school management system and the same government by strike. When a young guy, we trained ourselves in the university. There are some people that we are, they were fed with silver spoons in their mouth, some with golden spoons. You don't, we don't say it's their luck. But there are people, majority of them, I will tell you the truth, they hustle, they go do some petty works to fund themselves in school, and you use this strike action to be impeding their time. It's a frustrating thing. So government, that if everyone is calling government should please listen to the call of the people, that the people need the government to rise up to the expectation of governance. And that is just the truth. So that, there is a symbiotic relationship, and we grow in that form. Thank you very much.
Quickly add, so we don't miss the point here.
Okay.
The government have road to build. They have education to invest in. They have the healthcare. They have the public utilities, the water, and the street lights. They have even the youth empowerment, which is human capital development. Very, very. The importance cannot be overemphasized. But to say that we do not encourage youth to keep waiting for government to do everything for them. The youth should recognize that their destiny is in their hands. The government have a whole lot of responsibility, including protecting lives and properties, and therefore it's important that you do the ones you can, the most you can, to keep your personal and professional growth on the rise. And then in the process, if there's government if you like, programs that you can catch into, to fasten your journey, then you do that, so that you don't fold your hand and say, oh, I'll let government, it is their responsibility. Is it also their responsibility to come and breastfeed you and spoon feed you? And it is absolutely, and with all due respect, I want to say that your destiny is in your hand. You have to make high where the sun shines. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. And now, just before we conclude, I belong to a particular WhatsApp group that we are just a youth. It's youth-oriented though. And then every week you see someone coming out and saying that he can teach so and so skills, that if you are interested, you now send him a message, and then he creates another WhatsApp group where the teaching and all that will go on. Now, why I said this is I want us to establish the roles youth can play in supporting each other when it comes to, raising this bar. Because most times, a lot of these people that we are saying should go out there to learn skills, we know that some skills are capital-oriented, and some people cannot afford it due to the fact that they've not been working since they graduated, and they are just barely feeding themselves. So when it comes to youth supporting each other, how do we go about that?
Thank you very much. Anambra has been a state of Onyara 1 year. We always carry our brothers along, our sisters along in whatever we do. It's all about Nukwazo, Batanukunku, Aberazo, Bata Oberenko thing. Everyone, it's not a theory thing. You said that someone in a WhatsApp group will say, I have this skill. If you're interested, private chat me, then we move up with it. It's going. This is the spirit of Anambra. We even refer people to skill acquisition privately. There are these young ladies that they will be thinking, getting a white collar job is all there. There are people that are feeding their families today from makeups. These are people that you just refer to somebody, please help me teach this young girl on this, and that girl learns it. God blesses her, and she moves on with it, feeding herself and feeding her family to the glory of God. Haircuts too, artisans, all this generally. We do refer people, but the system has made itself so attached to white collar job thing. But the truth is that when you get into this white collar job, you will see that at the end of it, you are not even getting anything to commensurate what you are looking for. You understand? So it's an advisable thing for to the youth to look towards professional skills, entrepreneurship, not a thing of going to the office, you sit down. If I can measure wage to marginal physical productivity of labor, you see yourself that you are not even imputing in that your white collar job what your pay is giving you. But when you get to the street and start working, you put yourself physically into productivity, and then income will be coming. Nobody in the office can measure with you in terms of income making. So Anambra is very good in referring, and we are always doing it. Not it's not there has not been a kind of a formal setting where you say this is a platform where you will do refer people to this, but informally we are doing it. You said one that you've done, it's a commendable thing. Many people do it so many areas, because our dream here is to reduce their poverty as much as possible. So that when your younger one calls, you will be comfortable to pick his phone, no matter your economic state that time. You will not be, this person might be calling me to give him money, because you have engaged that person and he's doing very well there. So it's an ongoing thing, and we are encouraging more people to please look inward to finding a way to help our youth, because there are so many challenges there. The most major challenge we are having is inability to think or to decide what we can do. I've engaged some people in my village in Norfolk to, what do you really want for yourself? It's not all about every time this person comes, give me money, and blah, blah, blah. So you see them, when they will be talking to you, you see that some don't even have they don't know what they want for themselves. So you begin to advise, can you do this? Can you go and learn this? Can you, so that I have a friend in Parakot, I have a friend in Enugu, I have a friend in Onitsha that is doing this. I can refer you to him. You find a place, you stay, you patch with them. That is growth. You start growing with that place. 2-3 years time, you become something else if you are really focused, if you are really determined. So that's just something. So that's what we are praying to everyone, both me buying on a village and those that are merged. Keep on referring our people. From there, within some time, the state will be a better place for us. Thank you.
All right. We want to say a very big thank you to both of you for joining us this morning on the show. Dr. Nelson Omenoa, the Special Advisor to the Governor on Youth Empowerment. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. My pleasure.
And also to you, Kamri Onyedika Ewe, the State Youth Coordinator. Okay, youth leader rather, sorry. Ohanes Ndibu, thank you so much for being here with us this morning.
My pleasure. Thank you very much, the ABS. Thank you, everyone on the crew. May God bless us in Jesus' name.
Amen. Well, thank you so much for being part of the show this Monday morning. We want to say that you have a prosperous week. And remember to keep it with us tomorrow morning for another edition of Good Morning Anambra. My name is Chidima Orangwa. Enjoy the rest of your day.